chosen one, this is the moment when something in your spirit begins to tremble, not with fear, but with recognition. You have felt delay for so long that movement almost seems unfamiliar, and yet deep inside you, there is a quiet knowing that this day is not ordinary. Something has shifted, something has opened, something that looked sealed, blocked, postponed, and buried under disappointment is now being touched by the hand of God. You are not imagining this change. You are not reaching for empty hope. You are standing at the edge of a divine turning point, and heaven is making it clear that your miracle is not a fantasy, not a distant possibility, not a reward reserved for someone else. It is moving toward you now. There were days when you prayed and heard nothing but silence. There were nights when you tried to stay strong, but your heart felt tired from carrying promises that had not yet taken shape. You kept going while people misunderstood you, while doors stayed shut, while opportunities slipped away, while answers seemed to belong to everybody except you. You learned how to smile while fighting private battles. You learned how to encourage others while your own soul quietly asked how much longer. But even in those hidden moments, when nobody knew the full weight you were carrying, God knew. He saw every tear that never reached public view. He heard every prayer that did not have the strength to become elegant language. He counted every time you chose faith when giving up would have been easier. That is why this moment matters. This is not random encouragement. This is not emotional noise. This is not coincidence. This is divine intervention. God has opened the way, and when God opens the way, what was impossible under human strength begins to bend under divine authority. The wall does not need your power to fall. The locked gate does not need your hands to force it apart. The path ahead does not depend on whether your critics agree, whether your past makes sense, or whether the timing feels comfortable. It depends on the word of the one who speaks light into darkness and order into chaos. When he says move, movement begins. When he says live, dry things rise again. When he says open, no resistance can permanently stand. You may have thought your greatest struggle was the delay itself, but the deeper battle was the temptation to believe that delay meant denial. That is how discouragement tries to weaken you. It whispers that because it has not happened yet, it never will. It tells you that your waiting has been wasted, that your prayers were too small, that your mistakes were too many, that your season passed you by. But that voice is not truth. Delay is not the end of the story. Waiting is not proof of abandonment. The God who chose you was never confused about your timeline. He was never startled by the obstacles that rose around you. He was never searching for a new plan because your life became difficult. He has remained steady, sovereign, and fully aware of the exact hour when the way would open. And now you are entering a sacred threshold. This is the part where your faith must stop speaking like someone who only survives and begin speaking like someone who expects God to act. You have spent enough time shrinking your language to match your pain. You have spent enough time lowering your expectations so disappointment would hurt less. But a miracle cannot be received by a heart that has fully surrendered to hopelessness. Your spirit must wake up. Your inner posture must change. You must begin to understand that what is approaching you carries the signature of heaven. It may not arrive in the package you predicted. It may not unfold through the people you expected. It may not even resemble the old prayers you once prayed. But it will carry the unmistakable evidence that God Himself has gone before you. So breathe again. Lift your head again. Let your soul come back into agreement with what heaven is saying about you. You are not forgotten. You are not disqualified. You are not standing in the ruins of a life God can no longer use. You are standing in the middle of a setup that is bigger than your present understanding. The reason the pressure has felt so intense is because breakthrough was closer than you realized. The reason the enemy fought your mind so hard is because clarity was about to return. The reason so much tried to make you quit is because your continued obedience was about to meet God's appointed opening. Comment 111 if you are ready to receive what God is releasing in this hour. Listen carefully now. You do not need to force what God has already chosen to open. You do not need to chase every closed door in desperation. You do not need to beg for access where grace has not assigned you. There is a difference between striving and stepping. Striving is when fear pushes you to make something happen by your own strength. Stepping is when faith moves because God has made the path clear. This season is teaching you the difference. The miracle arriving in your life will not be born out of panic. It will be born out of alignment. It will come through surrender, trust, obedience, and spiritual alertness. That is why your peace matters now. That is why your discernment matters now. That is why your willingness to listen matters now. Do not talk yourself out of what God is doing because it feels too good, too sudden, or too powerful. Some blessings arrive slowly like dawn, and some break in like morning light bursting through a storm. Either way, they are still from God. You have entered a moment where things can change quickly. A conversation can shift everything. A phone call can redirect everything. A decision can unlock everything. One act of divine favor can do more in a day than years of human striving ever could. Never underestimate how quickly God can turn the page when the appointed time arrives. So stand firm, stay awake in your spirit, guard your heart from cynicism. Refuse the old language of defeat. Refuse the old posture of fear. The way is opening, and you are not meant to watch it from a distance. You are meant to walk through it. The miracle is not just near, it is being announced over your life right now. And this opening is only the beginning of what God is about to reveal. Chosen one, what makes this moment so heavy and so sacred at the same time is that the opening before you does not begin with a door. It begins with identity. Before the path clears, before the answer appears, before people understand what God is doing in your life, there is a truth that has followed you quietly through every season. You were never ordinary. You were never designed to disappear into the background or to carry a life that blends easily with the expectations of others. Something about you has always stood apart, even when you tried to make it fit, even when you tried to silence it, even when you questioned whether it was real. You have felt it in moments when you could not explain why your heart burned for more while others were satisfied with less. You have noticed it in the way you perceive things, the way you respond, the way you endure. There is a depth in you that does not match shallow environments. There is a sensitivity in your spirit that cannot ignore what others overlook. And while this has made you feel isolated at times, it is also evidence of something greater. The mark on your life is not an accident. It is not a personality flaw. It is not something you invented to feel different. It is the signature of divine intention. This is where the life of Moses begins to walk beside yours. Moses did not grow up with a clear and comfortable sense of belonging. From the very beginning, his life was marked by separation. He was born into danger, hidden to survive, then placed in a position that did not match his origin. He lived between identities, never fully Egyptian, never fully accepted by his own people in the beginning. That tension was not random. It was the early shaping of a man who would carry a calling too large for ordinary categories. You may recognize that same tension in yourself, the feeling of not fully fitting where you came from, yet not fully belonging where you are going. The sense that your life has been positioned in unusual ways, surrounded by contrasts that do not always make sense. Moses carried that weight long before he ever stood before Pharaoh. And like you, he had moments where that inner stirring became overwhelming. There came a point when Moses tried to act on what he felt without fully understanding how to carry it. He saw injustice and responded with impulse. He knew something was wrong, but he did not yet know how God intended to make it right. That moment cost him everything he thought he had built. He fled into the wilderness, into obscurity, into a place where it looked like his story had been reduced to survival instead of purpose. For a long time, nothing about his life looked like destiny. It looked like retreat. It looked like loss. It looked like silence, but heaven had not changed its mind. Scripture says, when the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. Exodus chapter 3, verse 2. That moment was not just a supernatural encounter, it was a reminder that what God places on a life does not expire in the wilderness. The fire was burning, but the bush was not consumed. In the same way, the calling on your life has been present even in seasons where nothing around you seemed to confirm it. You may have felt hidden, delayed, or even set aside, but the fire never truly went out. Moses had to confront something that you are also being asked to confront now. He had to stop defining himself by his past mistakes and his present limitations. When God called him, he resisted. He questioned his ability. He pointed to his weaknesses. He tried to explain why he was not the right person. But God's response did not revolve around Moses' qualifications. It revolved around God's authority. The question was never whether Moses felt ready. The question was whether he would trust the one who called him. You stand in a similar place now. The opening God is creating for you will not wait for you to feel completely prepared. It will not be shaped around your comfort. It will require you to step beyond the identity you built to survive and into the identity God has always known. Being chosen does not always feel empowering at first. Sometimes it feels exposing. Sometimes it feels like being asked to carry something that stretches every part of you. But that stretching is not meant to break you. It is meant to reveal what has been placed inside you all along. Moses' life proves that being set apart often involves seasons that look like detours. It involves moments where you question whether you misunderstood everything. It involves silence that forces you to grow deeper roots. Yet when the time came, God did not ask Moses to become someone new. He called forth what had been forming beneath the surface the entire time. So you must begin to see yourself correctly, not through the lens of who doubted you, not through the memory of where you failed, not through the discomfort of not fitting in, but through the reality that God has been shaping you in ways that only make sense when the moment of movement arrives. You are not behind. You are not misplaced. You are not forgotten in some wilderness that has no meaning. You are in a process that has been preparing you to stand when others cannot, to speak when others remain silent, and to move when God says it is time. The way that is opening before you is not separate from who you are. It is connected to it. The same God who marked Moses in obscurity is the God who called him into authority. And that same pattern is unfolding in your life now. Chosen one. This is where the message grows deeper, because once you begin to understand that you were never ordinary, you also have to face another truth that explains so much of what you have endured. The pain was preparation. The losses were not pointless. The tears were not wasted. The seasons that made no sense to your natural mind were still being used by God to shape your spirit, strengthen your endurance, and teach your heart how to carry what is now coming toward you. It is easy to celebrate a miracle when it arrives, but only heaven fully understands the cost of preparing a soul to hold it without collapsing under its weight. This is why the story of Moses continues to fit so powerfully beside your own. After fleeing into the wilderness, he entered a long stretch of life that looked unimpressive from the outside. The urgency was gone. The intensity of Egypt was behind him. The grand thoughts he may have once carried about changing things must have felt very far away. Day after day, he lived in obscurity. Day after day, he walked through the kind of routine that can make a person wonder whether their earlier sense of calling was real or whether it was only a passing emotion. Yet the wilderness was not empty. It was a school. It was a hidden place of formation. It was the place where God dealt with the parts of Moses that Egypt could never heal. You know what that feels like. There are chapters of life where God does not seem to be moving loudly, but he is still moving deeply. He begins stripping away illusions. He humbles the need to control outcomes. He exposes old fear. He teaches patience when you would rather have speed. He teaches surrender when you would rather have certainty. And sometimes the greatest pain in those seasons is not what you lost, but what you cannot yet explain. You cannot explain why the road became so hard. You cannot explain why the people you trusted did not remain. You cannot explain why the answer was delayed. But later, when the appointed moment comes, you begin to see that God was not ignoring you in those hidden years. He was building you there. Moses could not lead a people out until the wilderness had led certain things out of him. He could not stand before power until pride had been broken down. He could not carry a nation through uncertainty until he himself had learned how to live without visible applause. The hidden season was preparing public obedience. The slow season was preparing decisive movement. The painful season was preparing holy strength. And this is what you must understand about your own life right now. The hardship did not only test you, it trained you. The sorrow did not only wound you, it deepened you. The waiting did not only frustrate you, it taught you how to hear God without depending on constant confirmation. There are things you know now because you suffered. There is discernment in you now because you were betrayed. There is compassion in you now because you have been broken. There is steadiness in you now because you survived storms that should have taken you out. You pray differently because of what you have faced. You notice people differently because pain refined your vision. You hold on to God differently because there were moments when He was all you had. None of that is wasted. It is all becoming part of the strength you will need for what comes next. That is why you cannot despise the wilderness chapters of your life. They were painful, yes, but they were also sacred. They were the place where shallow faith died and real dependence was born. They were the place where your voice became quieter, but your roots became deeper. They were the place where you stopped living on appearance and started learning the weight of truth. Just as Moses tended sheep before he led a nation, you have been learning faithfulness in places that felt too small to matter. But God never calls hidden faithfulness small. He calls it preparation. Even now, part of your miracle is not just the door that is opening. Part of your miracle is the person you have become while waiting for it. Years ago, the same opportunity might have destroyed your peace, fed your ego, or distracted your heart. But now you are not who you were. The pressure changed you. The losses changed you. The prayers changed you. The nights when no one saw your tears changed you. You carry wisdom now that could only be born through endurance. You carry humility now that could only be shaped through dependence. You carry spiritual sight now that could only be sharpened in darkness. So do not say it was all for nothing. Do not call yourself abandoned when God was actually refining you. Do not reduce your story to pain alone when heaven has been writing preparation into every chapter. This is the reason your spirit can stand in this moment without breaking. This is the reason the opening ahead of you is meeting a stronger, wiser, deeper version of you than the one who first began the journey. And as this truth settles in your heart, let it move you gently. If this message is reaching you right where you are, let your response be part of the testimony. Like this message, so more hearts can be strengthened. Share it with someone who feels lost in their wilderness and needs to remember that pain can still be preparation. Subscribe if you want to keep walking in these moments of faith together. And if you feel led to support this work, you can do that through the donation link in the description, not as pressure, but as a quiet act of partnership in helping this message reach the next chosen one who needs it. Moses did not know, while walking those desert paths, that every hard day was shaping the vessel for a greater assignment. In the same way, you may not yet see the full meaning of what you survived, but you will. And when the fire speaks, you will understand that the pain was never the end of your story. It was preparation for the way God is now opening before you. Chosen one, once you understand that your pain has been preparing you, you are ready to see something even more powerful. What God opens cannot be shut by fear, by delay, by human resistance, or by the memory of who you used to be. This is where many souls struggle, because they can believe that God is strong in a general way, but they still wonder whether His strength will prevail in their particular situation. They know He works miracles, but they quietly ask whether the obstacle in front of them is too old, too deeply rooted, too guarded, too complicated, or too late. Yet the truth moving toward you in this hour is clear. When God decides to make a way, the obstacle does not get the final word. This is why the story of Moses becomes even more alive here. The wilderness did not cancel the calling, and the calling did not remain a private experience forever. There came a moment when what had been spoken in secret had to confront what looked impossible in public. God sent Moses back toward Egypt, back toward the very place that represented oppression, unfinished history, fear, and power structures that seemed immovable. Nothing about that assignment sounded easy. Pharaoh was not a small obstacle. Egypt was not a weak system. The suffering of the people was not a light burden. Everything about that moment could have persuaded a human mind that the way was still shut. But God had already decided otherwise. Moses was not walking back with a personal ambition. He was walking back with a word from heaven. That is the difference. If this had been merely his own desire, Egypt could have swallowed it. If this had been merely his own plan, Pharaoh could have crushed it. If this had depended only on his eloquence, confidence, or natural power, the whole mission would have died before it began. But when God opens a path, He does not ask the obstacle for permission. He does not wait for the powerful to become agreeable. He does not need darkness to cooperate in order for light to advance. He simply releases His authority, and what seemed untouchable begins to crack under the weight of His will. You need this truth to settle deeply into your spirit, because some of what stands before you has felt like Egypt. It has looked organized, established, and fortified. It has looked larger than your ability to confront it. It may be a cycle that has repeated for years. It may be a delay that has trained your heart to expect less. It may be a closed place where every attempt to move forward seemed to meet resistance. But if God is opening the way, then the size of the obstacle is no longer the central issue. The central issue becomes whether you will trust the one who goes before you. Moses had to learn this step by step. Pharaoh resisted. The process was not instant. The pressure increased before the release came. There were moments when it looked as though obedience had made the situation worse instead of better. That part matters because when God opens a way, there are times when the first evidence is not immediate ease but intensified confrontation. The enemy pushes back because something real is happening. Bondage reacts when freedom is near. Systems of oppression tighten when their hold is being broken, but opposition is not proof that the door is still closed. Sometimes it is proof that the opening has already begun. Scripture says, "The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace." Exodus chapter 14, verse 14. That word did not come when everything looked calm. It came when the people stood between the sea and the army, between promise and panic, between visible danger and invisible help. It came in the exact kind of moment where natural logic would say there is no way forward. Yet that was the very place where God chose to reveal that what He opens cannot be shut. You may be standing in a similar moment now. You may feel pressed between what pursued you and what blocks you. Behind you is the memory of captivity. In front of you is something that seems impossible to cross. Around you are voices of fear, voices of doubt, voices that would prefer a familiar bondage over an unfamiliar miracle. But this is not the time to return to old slavery in your heart. This is the time to remember who opened the path in the first place. The sea did not part because the people were powerful. It parted because God had already declared freedom over them. The waters did not consult Pharaoh. They responded to the command of the Creator. And in the same way, the thing before you will not remain closed simply because it has resisted you for a long time. If God has chosen this hour to make a way, then what has held firm for years can move in a moment. What looked permanent can split. What looked final can yield. So do not interpret the resistance as defeat. Do not mistake the noise of opposition for the silence of God. The same Lord who met Moses in hidden fire revealed Himself again in public deliverance. He is consistent. He is not weakened by your impossible place. He is not intimidated by the force that stands against you. He is not searching for an alternative because the obstacle looks too great. He is the God who opens paths through places that were never supposed to have paths at all. And that is what makes this hour sacred for you. The way ahead is not opening because conditions finally became favorable. It is opening because God has spoken. The door no fear could unlock, no striving could force, and no human favor could manufacture is yielding to divine authority. What He has opened for you now will not be shut by darkness on delay or the will of man. Chosen one. Before we go deeper into this sacred word, there is one gentle note for those who have been feeling mentally exhausted, unfocused, creatively blocked, or weighed down by constant inner noise. Some people have been finding help through the Genius Wave, also called Genius Song, a short audio experience built around brainwave entrainment and often described as a simple 7-minute daily practice designed to support focus, clearer thinking, creativity, memory, emotional calm, and better mental flow without requiring special skills. For listeners who feel like their mind has been under pressure for too long, that kind of support may feel relevant in this season. If you want to learn about it carefully, you can check the official information in the description or the pinned comment. Please be cautious with imitations and fake versions, and only use the official source if you decide to explore it. Now let us return to the deeper message, because what heaven is saying to your spirit in this hour carries a weight no counterfeit can reproduce. Chosen one. There are moments in life when the greatest danger is not open rebellion but quiet hesitation. Not the loud refusal that everyone can see, but the inward delay that disguises itself as caution, overthinking, or waiting for a perfect feeling that never comes. This is why this moment matters so deeply. God has opened the way, but when the way opens, your heart must be willing to move. A closed door requires patience. An open door requires obedience. And many people who know how to endure the waiting season still struggle when the time comes to step forward. This is where the story of Moses speaks with unusual force. There he stood with the people before the sea, behind them the army, around them fear, and within the camp the rising voice of panic. It was one of the most intense moments of his life. God had already demonstrated his power. God had already broken chains. God had already led them out. Yet when they faced the water, many hearts began to collapse under the pressure of the next step. Deliverance had begun, but trust was still being tested. Freedom had been announced, but movement still demanded faith. You know that feeling. You pray for change, and then when change begins, you feel the trembling in your chest. You ask God to open the way, and then when the path appears, your mind starts rehearsing every possible risk. You want the miracle, but part of you still longs for the familiarity of what once held you captive. At least bondage was known. At least the old pain was predictable. At least the old limitations did not ask you to trust at this level. This is one of the strangest struggles of the chosen life. Sometimes the soul grows so accustomed to surviving that it must be taught how to step into freedom. That is why this hour is sacred. You are not only being invited to witness what God can do, you are being invited to participate through obedience. The opened way is not meant to be admired from a distance. It is meant to be entered. But hesitation can become dangerous when God has already spoken. Not because God is cruel, but because delayed obedience keeps trying to negotiate with what heaven has already made clear. Moses could not stand before the sea forever explaining the problem. There came a moment when explanation had to give way to action. There came a moment when fear had to stop narrating reality. There came a moment when the leader had to move in agreement with God rather than in agreement with the panic around him. And that is where many miracles either become visible or remain unrealized in the human experience. Not because God failed, but because hearts became divided at the edge of the crossing. There are things you must not carry into this next place. You cannot carry the old language that says maybe this will fail too. You cannot carry the old posture that expects disappointment as a form of self-protection. You cannot carry the addiction to delay, the habit of shrinking back, the reflex of calling yourself unready whenever heaven invites you higher. Those patterns may have helped you survive earlier seasons, but they will not help you cross now. Notice something powerful in Moses' journey. He had his own fears. He had his own history. He had his own moments of doubt. Yet in the decisive hour, he stood in the place of obedience and watched God make the impossible path visible. That is the invitation before you now. Not perfection. Not flawless confidence. Obedience. God is not asking you to become fearless before you move. He is asking you to trust Him enough to move while fear is still trying to speak. This is also why spiritual urgency must be handled with wisdom. You are not being called into panic. You are being called into readiness. Panic runs ahead of God. Readiness walks with Him. Panic is driven by desperation. Readiness is shaped by trust. Panic grasps at every option. Readiness discerns the right step and takes it. So when you feel the weight of this moment, do not turn that weight into anxiety. Turn it into alignment. Let it awaken your spirit, not agitate your soul. Moses lifted the rod because there comes a time when the servant of God must act like the word he received is true. In your own life, that may mean saying yes where you once stalled. It may mean releasing what God told you to leave behind. It may mean praying with renewed boldness instead of quiet resignation. It may mean finally accepting that the season has changed and your inner life must change with it. Whatever the form, the principle remains the same. Do not let hesitation talk you out of the opening God has created. The sea does not part for endless observer. It parts in the atmosphere of obedience. And now that the way is opening before you, this is not the hour to retreat into old fear. This is the hour to trust that the God who brought you this far is not inviting you to the edge in order to abandon you there. He is leading you through. Chosen one, when you have stood long enough in places where nothing seems to move, it is easy to imagine that heaven is silent simply because you cannot yet see the full design. But silence is not absence, and delay is not disorder. There are seasons when God is arranging more than your eyes can measure, aligning people, pressure, timing, and purpose with a precision so exact that only later do you understand why nothing could happen sooner. What feels delayed to you is often being prepared in dimensions you cannot yet reach. What feels hidden is often being established. What feels uncertain is often under divine instruction. This is where the journey of Moses reveals another layer of holy truth. After the sea opened and the people crossed, the story did not become effortless. In some ways, it became even more demanding. The miracle of escape was real, but now there had to be guidance for the wilderness, provision for hunger, water in dry places, order for a restless people, and wisdom for countless pressures that arose day after day. This is important because many imagine that once the way opens, every difficulty disappears. Yet in the kingdom of God, the opening of the way is often the beginning of a deeper unveiling, not only of what God can do, but of how carefully He has been preparing every stage. Moses had to learn that the God who rescues is also the God who organizes. The God who breaks chains is also the God who establishes rhythm, direction, structure, and daily dependence. There was manna at the right time. There was water from impossible places. There was instruction when confusion spread. There was a cloud by day and fire by night. None of it was accidental. None of it was improvised in panic. Heaven was not reacting nervously to the needs of the people. Heaven was leading with intention. You need that truth in your spirit now, because some of what is happening in your life may still look unfinished. You may have seen one door open, yet many details remain unclear. You may have felt God shift something powerfully, yet you are still asking how the next steps will unfold. You may be standing in a transition where the old season has ended, but the full shape of the new one has not yet become visible. In that place, the temptation is to believe that because you do not understand everything, maybe nothing is truly aligned. But that is not how God works. His strategy often unfolds in layers. He gives enough light for obedience, then more light for the next step. Moses did not receive the entire map at once. He received direction as he walked. He learned that trust is not built by having every answer in advance. Trust is built by recognizing the character of the one who leads. And this is where your own heart is being strengthened now. You are learning to stop demanding total visibility before you obey. You are learning to stop calling a season empty just because its meaning has not fully appeared. You are learning that God's precision is not rushed, not careless, and not fragile. Think of how many elements had to align for Moses to stand where he stood. He had to be preserved at birth. He had to be raised in a place that exposed him to power. He had to be broken in the wilderness. He had to encounter God in fire. Pharaoh had to be confronted. The people had to be released. The sea had to part. The wilderness had to become a place of dependence. At every stage, what looked separate was connected. What looked scattered was part of a design. What looked painful was still being used. And in the same way, what you have been through is not isolated chaos. It is connected. The losses, the waiting, the redirections, the moments that felt like interruption, the closed doors that forced you elsewhere, the strange timing that confused you. All of it is being woven with more wisdom than you can presently describe. This is why you must guard your heart from the lie that says your life is random. It is not random. It is not loose pieces falling without meaning. The God who leads chosen ones does not waste chapters. Even the parts you would never have chosen can become vital to the final testimony. Moses likely did not understand, while tending sheep in obscurity, that those silent years were preparing the steadiness he would need later. In the same way, you do not always understand the value of a season while you are still inside it, but heaven does. And because heaven does, you can rest without becoming passive. You can trust without becoming dull. You can move without pretending to know everything. That is mature faith. It is not noisy. It is not frantic. It is not addicted to immediate explanation. It knows that God can be deeply at work behind what looks ordinary. It knows that the absence of full clarity is not the absence of divine order. So as you continue listening, let this message settle into you and strengthen you. If it is helping you breathe again, helping you see your season with clearer eyes, then receive that as part of God's kindness. And if this word is blessing you, you can gently support its reach. Like this message so more people who feel lost in transition can find encouragement. Share it with someone who is struggling to trust God's timing. Subscribe if you want to stay connected to these moments of faith and spiritual clarity. And if you feel led to help this message continue reaching hearts, there is a donation option in the description. Not as pressure, but as a simple way to stand in partnership with what is feeding souls. Chosen one, the strategy of heaven is unfolding even now. You may not see every piece, but you are not walking through confusion alone. The same God who led Moses with fire, cloud, provision, and instruction is leading you with that same careful authority. He is not only opening a way, He is arranging the journey beyond the opening. He is not only breaking one barrier, He is building the path that follows it. The details that trouble you are not beyond His reach. The timing that stretches you is not outside His wisdom. The unknowns that unsettle you are already known by Him. So do not fear the parts you cannot yet explain. What God is doing in your life is deeper than sudden relief. It is a holy alignment. It is a divine strategy. It is heaven revealing, step by step, that your story has never been abandoned to chance. It has been held, guided, corrected, and prepared by the hand of God all along. Chosen one, whenever heaven begins to move with greater clarity in your life, darkness rarely stays quiet. This is one of the hardest truths for many people to understand, because they assume that if God is truly opening the way, then resistance should disappear immediately. But often the opposite happens. When your breakthrough grows near, what has fed on your delay begins to react. What was comfortable while you remained discouraged becomes disturbed when you rise in faith. What tolerated your silence becomes threatened when you begin to walk in obedience. The battle intensifies not because God has left you, but because what opposed you can sense that its season of control is being challenged. This is where the journey of Moses continues to reveal something piercing and necessary. After the dramatic moments of deliverance, after the signs, after the crossing, after the victories that seemed undeniable, the struggle did not vanish. In many ways, it changed form. The people still complained, fear still surfaced, rebellion still tried to spread, weariness still pressed against the soul. There were enemies outside, but there were also pressures inside the camp. Moses was not only leading through geography, he was leading through atmosphere, through tension, through instability, through the constant friction that rises whenever a people are being transformed. You know this pattern in your own life. Sometimes you expect the biggest battle to be the one before the miracle. Then God moves, and you discover another kind of warfare waiting on the other side. It is the warfare of maintaining trust. It is the warfare of guarding your mind. It is the warfare of refusing to let old fear re-enter through a new door. It is the warfare of standing in what God has done without letting exhaustion convince you that you are still where you used to be. This battle can feel deeply personal because it often appears in thoughts, moods, doubts, and moments of invisible pressure that nobody else fully sees. Moses faced this again and again. He stood in the place of responsibility while surrounded by people who could witness miracles and still collapse into unbelief. That alone reveals the seriousness of spiritual battle. External evidence does not automatically produce internal surrender. People can see wonders and still choose fear. They can walk through opened waters and still speak as though bondage was better. They can taste provision and still complain like the hand of God has failed them. And in that environment, Moses had to keep returning to the source of his strength. He could not lead from his own emotions alone. He could not sustain the assignment by natural resilience alone. He had to remain anchored in the God who called him. That is where your own strength must come from now. Because the intensified battle around your life is not only about events, it is about agreement. Darkness wants your agreement with despair. It wants your agreement with delay. It wants your agreement with the lie that says nothing is changing, nothing is working, nothing is worth trusting. It wants to wear down your spirit until you call captivity wisdom and call retreat discernment. But you must not make covenant with that voice. You must not let pressure rename what God has already declared over your life. Scripture says, "Fear ye not, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will show to you today." Exodus chapter 14, verse 13. That word was given in the midst of visible threat, not in the comfort of easy circumstances. It was spoken when panic was loud, when danger looked immediate, when escape seemed impossible by natural measurement. And that is exactly why it still carries power for you now. The command was not to pretend the danger was unreal. The command was to refuse fear the right to rule the heart. That is your assignment in this season of intensified battle. Not denial, not passivity, no steadiness. The enemy wants reaction. God is forming resolve. The enemy wants noise. God is establishing authority. The enemy wants your soul scattered in 10 directions at once. God is teaching you to stand with inward clarity. This is why spiritual maturity matters so much now. Not every attack should be answered with panic. Not every wave of pressure deserves your agreement. Not every difficult thought deserves a seat of honor in your inner life. Moses had to learn that leadership in sacred moments often means holding position while chaos swirls around you. It means keeping your ear turned toward God when the camp is loud with anxiety. It means remembering what heaven said even when the visible situation still looks tense. And in the same way, your breakthrough is requiring a new posture from you. You cannot afford to interpret every challenge as proof of failure. You cannot afford to collapse each time the atmosphere shifts. You cannot afford to give your peace away every time resistance tries to announce itself. The battle intensifies because your movement matters. Your obedience matters, your healing matters, your freedom matters. There are things connected to your life that will also be affected when you fully step into what God has opened. That is why the pressure has been real. That is why the temptation has been sharp. That is why your mind has sometimes felt like a contested place. Hell does not waste effort on what carries no threat to darkness. The intensity is not a compliment to fear. It is a signal that something valuable is at stake. So hold your ground, chosen one. Let the noise around you lose its authority. Let the lies fall without building a home in your spirit. Let the old patterns of panic break their hold. This is not the hour to measure truth by the volume of opposition. This is the hour to remember that God does some of his greatest works when the battle seems to tighten. Moses learned that deliverance and warfare can stand close together, but the presence of warfare never canceled the certainty of God's hand, and it will not cancel it now. The darkness is reacting because your breakthrough is no longer distant. It is pressing close enough to disturb everything that hoped you would never reach it. Chosen one. After the battle has intensified and the pressure has tried to make you doubt everything God has spoken, there comes a breathtaking moment when the miracle is no longer only a promise held in faith. It begins to take form in front of you. What was once hidden starts becoming visible. What was once only whispered in prayer starts stepping into reality. This is one of the most humbling moments in the spiritual journey, because when the miracle appears, you realize that God was working far beyond your imagination the whole time. He was not only preserving you, he was preparing manifestation. He was not only comforting you in the dark, he was shaping a testimony that would stand in the light. This is where the story of Moses shines with extraordinary force. There were many moments in his life when he had only a word, only an instruction, only a glimpse of what God intended to do. But there also came moments when what had been spoken became undeniable in public view. Water came from the rock. Bread appeared in the wilderness. Guidance descended with precision. Enemies were overcome. A people once crushed under oppression were now being sustained by the hand of God in places where survival should have been impossible. The miracle did not always look like ease. Sometimes it looked like provision in the middle of barrenness. Sometimes it looked like strength arriving exactly when weakness reached its limit. Sometimes it looked like direction appearing just when confusion should have swallowed everything. But it was miracle all the same. You must understand this, because many people miss the miracle when it does not arrive in the form they originally expected. They look for one dramatic sign and overlook the holy pattern of God's faithfulness unfolding right before them. They ask for thunder, while God is already sending manna. They ask for instant completion, while God is already giving daily evidence that he is with them. They ask for the whole promise in one sweep, while heaven is revealing it piece by piece, with wisdom, with mercy, with timing that protects the soul from pride and panic alike. That may be where you are right now. The miracle is taking form, but you are being invited to see it with spiritual eyes. It may be that your mind is clearer than it once was. It may be that doors are opening that would not open before. It may be that the crushing heaviness is lifting little by little. It may be that your courage is returning. It may be that relationships are shifting. Your discernment is sharpening. Your peace is deepening. And your strength to keep going is no longer something you have to force. Do not dismiss these signs just because they unfold with quiet authority instead of sudden noise. A miracle does not become less divine because it arrives with process. Moses had to watch God reveal himself through provision that met real human need. This mattered because the people were not being sustained by fantasy. They were being sustained by heaven in actual time, in actual hunger, in actual thirst, in actual uncertainty. And that is what makes your present moment so sacred. God is not working only in theory. He is working where you actually live. in your exhaustion, in your questions, in your financial strain, in your emotional recovery, and in your rebuilding, in your waiting, in the practical places where you most need proof that heaven has not forgotten your name. Scripture says, "And the Lord is my strength and song, and he has become my salvation." Exodus chapter 15, verse 2. Notice the tenderness and power in that truth. He is not only the giver of rescue from afar, he becomes salvation in lived experience. He becomes the strength you did not have. He becomes the song you could not sing in your sorrow. He becomes the answer that your own effort could never manufacture. This is why the miracle taking form is so personal. It is not merely about changed conditions. It is about encountering God as the one who carried you into those changed conditions. You are beginning to see that now. The thing that once looked impossible is no longer untouchable. The old sentence over your life is being broken. The bleakness that tried to define your future is losing its authority. You are not standing where you stood before. Even if the full picture is still unfolding, enough has happened for your spirit to know that God is moving. Enough has shifted for faith to become sight in certain areas. Enough has opened for you to stop speaking as though everything is still buried. This is a holy place to stand, because gratitude becomes deeper here. Not shallow excitement, but reverence. Not hype, but recognition. You begin to understand that what is unfolding could never have been built by your own hands alone. The precision is too great. The timing is too exact. The restoration is too merciful. The inner transformation is too profound. This is God's doing. And because it is His doing, you do not need to fear that it is fragile. What He begins to manifest, He knows how to sustain. So let your heart agree with what your eyes are starting to witness. Let hope become steadier now. Let thanksgiving rise. Let expectation mature. The miracle is not a distant rumor anymore. It is taking shape. It is entering your lived reality. It is becoming tangible in ways that call you to stop speaking only from memory and start speaking from revelation. Comment: God made a way. Chosen one, the wilderness did not have the final word over Moses, and the dry place will not have the final word over you. The same God who formed provision where none seemed possible is still moving with that same authority now. What He promised is becoming visible. What He spoke is entering form. What He planted in faith is rising into sight. And as it appears, you are being reminded that miracles are not myths reserved for ancient pages. They are the fingerprints of a living God still making a way for those He has called. Chosen one, after the miracle begins to take visible form, there comes another sacred shift that many do not expect. God does not open the way merely so you can feel relieved. He opens the way so you can walk in a different authority. The breakthrough is not only about escape from what held you back, it is also about transformation into the person who can carry new responsibility with wisdom, steadiness, and reverence. This is where your journey becomes even more profound, because the God who brought you through is now teaching you how to stand. This is where the life of Moses speaks with great force to your spirit. Moses was not called only to witness mighty acts. He was called to grow into a posture that matched what God had entrusted to him. He had seen the fire in the bush. He had faced Pharaoh. He had watched the sea open. He had endured the complaints of the people. He had walked through fear, pressure, and uncertainty. But all of that was shaping something deeper than survival. It was shaping authority, not the kind built on pride or self-importance, but the kind born from surrender, obedience, and intimacy with God. You are being brought into that same kind of maturity now. There was a season when your prayers were centered mainly on rescue, on relief, on getting through the next storm. There is no shame in that, because pain has a way of narrowing the soul to its most urgent need. But once God begins to move and the way opens before you, He starts teaching you how to live from a stronger place, not as someone always bracing for loss, but as someone learning to carry peace. Not as someone always asking whether you belong, but as someone who knows you have been called. Not as someone shrinking under pressure, but as someone who has discovered that God's presence can steady you in every atmosphere. Moses had to learn this in the presence of God. The authority he carried did not come from personality alone. It did not come from eloquence, public approval, or the constant support of the people around him. In fact, there were many moments when the people themselves misunderstood him, resisted him, or added to the burden he carried. Yet his strength was rooted somewhere deeper. He returned again and again to the Lord. He learned that divine authority is sustained by communion. It is not enough to have a memory of what God once did. You must keep meeting Him in the present. That truth matters deeply for you now. Because stepping into authority does not mean becoming harsh, loud, or self-exalting. It means becoming grounded. It means that your inner life stops collapsing every time circumstances shift. It means your discernment grows sharper than your fear. It means your decisions become less driven by old wounds and more guided by God's wisdom. It means you stop handing your identity to every opinion, every rejection, every delay, or every atmosphere that tries to define you. Scripture says, "But my presence shall go with thee, and I will give thee rest." Exodus chapter 33, verse 14. This is one of the holiest truths in Moses' story. The authority to move forward was never separated from the presence of God. Rest was not promised because the journey would have no challenges. Rest was promised because God's presence would remain. That is the secret of real spiritual authority. It is not the absence of battle. It is the nearness of God in the middle of it. And now that truth is being written into your own life. The reason you can walk forward with greater courage is not because every question has been answered. It is because you are no longer depending on perfect conditions to feel secure. The reason you can stand when opposition rises is not because you have become naturally unshakable. It is because God's presence is teaching your soul a deeper steadiness. The reason you do not have to shrink back anymore is not because your past suddenly vanished. It is because your past no longer has the right to rule your future. Moses also shows you that authority requires humility. The closer he walked with God, the more he understood that this calling was never about personal glory. It was about faithful stewardship. He was responsible for carrying what God had given him in a way that honored heaven. That same principle now rests on you. What God is placing in your hands must be carried with care. The open door must be walked through with reverence. The peace He has restored must be protected. The clarity He has given must not be traded for confusion again. The freedom He has begun in you must not be surrendered back to old habits of fear and self-doubt. So this is your moment to stand differently. Not in arrogance, but in alignment. Not in performance, but in truth. Not trying to impress the world, but ready to obey the God who has led you this far. The old version of you could not have carried this hour, but the one shaped through wilderness, tested through delay, refined through pain, and strengthened through revelation can now rise and walk with a new measure of grace. Chosen one. This is what it means to step boldly into authority. It means you stop asking permission to be who God has already called you to be. It means you stop apologizing for the healing, the wisdom, and the strength He has formed in you. It means you stop looking backward with longing and start looking forward with holy confidence. Moses did not cross through all he crossed merely to remain inwardly captive. and neither did you. The God who opened the way for you is also establishing your footing in this new season. His presence goes with you. His rest steadies you. His authority covers you. And now you are learning not only how to survive the journey, but how to stand within it as someone marked by God, chosen one. This is where everything that has been unfolding through your journey begins to settle into its full meaning. The way God opened for you was never just about rescue from one hard season. It was about bringing you into a life that reflects His faithfulness, His power, and His purpose with greater clarity than ever before. You are not leaving this message as the same person who entered it. Something in you has been called higher. Something in you has been steadied. Something in you has been reminded that your story does not belong to fear, delay, or darkness. It belongs to the God who calls, forms, protects, and leads His own. That is why the life of Moses remains such a fitting mirror for this final moment. Moses was never meant to stay in the place of hiding. He was never meant to let failure define him forever. He was never meant to live and die under the memory of what went wrong in Egypt, or under the pressure of every difficult voice around him. God took him through fire, wilderness, resistance, miracles, battles, provision, and holy encounters, so that his life would stand as proof that divine purpose can outlast human weakness. Moses was shaped into a vessel through whom God revealed authority, mercy, guidance, and presence. And in that same way, your own life is becoming a testimony that what God starts, He does not abandon halfway. You have now seen how being chosen sets you apart before people understand you. You have seen how pain prepares what comfort never could. You have seen how God opens doors that no force can permanently shut. You have seen how hesitation must give way to obedience, how heaven arranges what your natural eyes cannot yet measure, how battle intensifies when breakthrough is near, how miracles take form in lived experience, and how authority grows in the soul that remains near to God. All of it has been leading here, to the place where you stop calling yourself almost ready and begin accepting that the hand of God has already been forming you for this hour. This does not mean every challenge is over. Moses himself teaches otherwise. Even those who walk closely with God still face responsibility, stretching, and the need for continual trust. But what changes now is your posture. You no longer stand as someone merely hoping to survive the next wave. You stand as someone who has seen enough of God's faithfulness to know that the next wave does not rule you. You are not empty-handed. You are not uncovered. You are not directionless. The God who has led you this far is not a temporary guide. He is your keeper still. So let your heart become settled in this truth. The miracle was never only about getting something, it was about becoming someone deeper, someone steadier, someone more discerning, someone less controlled by fear, someone more willing to move when God says move, someone more able to carry blessing without losing humility, someone more ready to shine with quiet authority in a world that often mistakes noise for strength. That is part of the crown heaven places on a yielded life. Not a crown of pride, but a crown of purpose. Not a throne built by ego, but a commission shaped by obedience. And now, before we close, let this become prayer in the most natural way possible, because what God has stirred in you deserves a holy response. Father, thank you for every chosen one listening right now. Thank you that you have not forgotten them in delay, in sorrow, in confusion, or in hidden seasons. Thank you that every wilderness has had meaning in your hands. Thank you that every battle has not been wasted. Thank you that the way you open cannot be shut by fear, by darkness, by opposition, or by the voice of the past. I ask that you strengthen the weary heart, steady the trembling mind, and restore the soul that has almost given up. Let peace return where torment tried to settle. Let courage rise where hesitation tried to rule. Let clarity come where confusion has lingered. Let obedience become easier than fear. Let every listener feel the nearness of your presence and the security of your hand. Lead them forward with wisdom. Guard them from counterfeit paths. Protect them from voices that pull them away from truth. Confirm what you are doing in their life, and let the miracle you have begun continue to unfold with your perfect timing. In every place where they feel weak, become strength. In every place where they feel uncertain, become peace. In every place where they feel unseen, remind them that heaven has called them by name. Amen. Chosen one, carry that prayer with you. Let it remain in your spirit after this message ends. Return to it when the old thoughts try to come back. Return to it when the road feels long. Return to it when God surprises you with sudden goodness. Return to it when you need to remember that your life is not random and your calling is not fragile. And if this message has truly spoken to your heart, stay connected to it in a simple and sincere way. Like this message so it can reach others who need strength for their journey. Share it with someone who is standing at the edge of their own crossing and needs to remember that God still opens the way. Subscribe if you want to continue walking in these messages of faith, purpose, and spiritual clarity. And if you feel moved to help support this work, there is a donation option in the description, not as pressure, but as a quiet act of partnership in helping these words reach the next heart that is waiting for confirmation. You are not going back to who you were. You are going forward as someone who has been shaped by fire and carried by grace. The way is open, the presence of God is with you, and the calling over your life is still alive.